I live on these beaches day in and day out. We've been renting umbrellas and chairs here in Gulf Shores on Orange Beach for 27 years. We were starting to get ready for the season, and then we heard the news. What BP said they were going to clean it up. They kept their word. Beaches are clean, our snowbirds are happy, my employees are busy. It's a great feeling. Man, I can't wait for another season. Come on down, we're open for business. I live on these beaches day in and day out. We've been renting umbrellas and chairs here in Gulf Shores on Orange Beach for 27 years. We were starting to get ready for the season, and then we heard the news. What BP said they were going to clean it up. They kept their word.
It's been a tough year in the Gulf, but I knew we'd get through this.
In some ways, we're stronger. Our whole community came together.
BP had to step up, and I think they did. They stuck by the region and kept our communities working.
Now the Gulf's back. Our shrimpers and fishermen are back on the water, our beaches are clean, and we're back to doing what we love, serving Gulf seafood.
Business gets better every day.
We've got the best gumbo in town.
We'll save you a table by the window.
and it was handed down from generation to the next. It was handed down from generation to the next. It was handed down from generation to the next. It was handed down from generation to the next. It was handed down from generation to the next. It was handed down from generation to the next. It was handed down from generation to the next. Many gadgets that we have today, we seldom have the focused attention to listen to things. We talk about children having ADD, ADHD. I keep telling the adults that we have AADD, Adult Attention Deficit Disorder. That we also do not have, our attention spans are pretty small. Those were the days wherein I have come across such people even in these days. They were called Ekasantagrahi. Ekasantagrahi, somebody who has the capacity to listen something once and they have grasped it all. There is a story about Ramana Maharshi's disciple. He was called Ganapati Muni. He had once travelled to the Sindhu Nadi, which is now part of Pakistan, and he had offered his morning oblations. He had taken his bath in that river, offered his morning oblations, and as he was returning back from that shore of that river, he saw these two people fighting with each other. It was a pretty intense fight. He couldn't make head or tail of what they were talking because it was not his language. But then the soldiers or the police of that area caught them both, and now it was his word against the other ones. So they finally searched. They said, was there anybody who was a witness for this? They found this Ganapati Muni who did not understand their language. But finally, when he got the communication that they were trying to find what happened in that particular place between these two people who were fighting, he said, don't worry, I can repeat the entire thing verbatim. And that 15-20 minute discussion that he had overheard, he just repeated the entire thing, though he did not understand a single word that was spoken. That was the capacity of Ekasantagrahi. So we hear because our ears are open. Listening is when we have a complete attention. And the students of those days had least distractions of any kind, and their focus was much better. So these Shrutis were handed down from one generation of Guru, the teacher, to the next generation of disciples, the students. So these this Vedic literature was compiled into 4 big books. Each book had various segments, and each segment was called a Samhita. Samhita, which followed a certain theme of various aspects of life and living, and thus Veda Vyasa bifurcated the extreme large amount of Vedic literature that he had found with the help of his 4 students, each one dedicated for one particular Vedic book, and then he called them as the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and the Atharva Veda. I have said this so many times that it has become a very old joke. Once in a gathering I asked them, how many Vedas? So with mutual discussion they came up and said 4 definitely. So I asked them what are they? And they came up saying that Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Ayurveda. So it is not Ayurveda, it is Atharva Veda. So we have 4 Vedas. Now in order to understand the structure of these Vedic texts, let's take an example that we have a Rig Veda. Rig Veda has various themes, as I earlier stated. Each theme is called a Samhita. Now this theme was further divided into 4 parts. These 4 parts are called Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and the last one was called Upanishad. So mantra, mananat trayate, that by repeating which it takes you away from the limitations of the problem. So how do I translate into our utilitarian language? So mantra can be easily translated as a formula or a collection of formulae. They were given in a very precise format, not much explanation given. They were very precise and they were formulas. The application of these formulas were given in the next portion or next segment, which is called the Brahmana. Brahmana is when you intend getting expertise with these formulas in its practical application. That expertise is known as Brahmanatva. Hence, therefore, it was called as the Brahmana section. So, the Vedas are 4. Rig, Yajus, Sama, Atharva Veda. Each Veda had various themes and each theme was called a Samhita. Within the Samhita, there are again 4 categories. The first category is a formula called mantra. The second was the application of it. And nowadays, when you have all these gadgets which have the apps, the Apple version has these many apps, the Android has these many apps. So each Samhita had mantras and mantras had their applications in various fields of life and living. If someone had to do further research on these mantras and applications so that they could master it, perfect it, they would go into seclusion of forests. The tree is called Arani, and that is why the forest is known as Aranya. Aranyaka, in the seclusion of the forest, in the quietude of forest, the further research was done, and that research, Upasana, is called Aranyaka. And the last segment is called any theme of the Vedas. The final culmination of all streams of knowledge, Veda the knowledge, all streams of knowledge, when you perfect it, has to take you to that core within, to that self within, and that was experiential knowledge which was compiled in the form of Upanishads. We will come to the word meaning of Upanishads when we go there. And since it was the last segment of each Samhita, Upanishads are otherwise known as Vedanta. Very wrongly interpreted that Vedanta is for Vedanta. When do we have to focus on Vedantic studies? So ask anybody, they would say that spirituality, everything has its own age and time. Spirituality is something that you have to focus when you are retired. You are so tired that you don't have strength to retire. So they retire you. And that is when, usually that's a concept that people who are aged are qualified for this Vedantic studies. But that is a misinterpretation. In fact, I used to have, my grandmother, she used to stay with us, and every Sunday I used to go to these Yuva Kendra classes, the study groups wherein we used to study self-unfoldment, Kindle Life and other books. And she used to have a big time difficulty understanding. She said, this is your age to go out, play and have fun. This is not the age to dwell in the scriptural studies and other things. Why do you waste your time? So being elderly, I would never retaliate or talk back. I would just keep nodding and then do my own things. One day she was on me, like, she wouldn't allow me get out. She had totally, as they say, nakabandi. She had enclosed me from all sides, all arguments. She was a little hyper that day. So I said, okay, I will not go today, sit down, let's have a discussion. So you tell me, when is the age for listening through these scriptural things and following the scriptures? When should I practice it? Said, when you are old, retired, when you get old, when you are retired, that is the right time. So I said, what should be the approximate age? So she said, maybe around 60, 65. So I said, now the logic was turning into my favor. So I quickly asked her, how old are you? So in those days they did not have date of birth or things like that. I said, I am old. I said, okay, you are more than 65? I said, yeah. Why is it that I never see you refer to any scriptures, any Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads or Vedanta at all? So then she started her saga. She said, beta, kya bataun, what should I tell you? If I sit, I cannot stand. If I want to see, I have to have glasses. Even with those glasses, when I start reading, it starts watering and I can't hear properly. She started giving all her various ailments. And I said, in that age, when you are asking me to follow this up and practice it, when you are completely like a history relic, wherein every organ needs a support, and still you cannot manage going through any of these scriptures. So what is the point that I have to wait till that age wherein nothing of my capacities function, and when I have them functioning, you say that is not the right age. So after that, she never messed with me. When I would take my book and go for my Sunday classes, she wouldn't mess with me. That kept her thinking that when it was the right age to think and go through these scriptural studies, we never pay attention to it, and at that age when it is the right time to, because there are no further responsibilities that are pulling you from different directions, you don't have those capacities. So how are these capacities? So in our Kathopanishad there is a beautiful mantra. It says Jagdhatranaha, which means that they have had their last meal. They have quenched their thirst for the last time. That is how the Indriyas are. You don't know when they will fall off. With that kind of capacity, you are, that is when I tell them that you are better luck next life. This life is already gone by. Better luck next life. So these Upanishads, which are called Vedanta, is a practical application of life and living from the most abstract standpoint to the minutest details of day-to-day living, but given in a format which is which believes in not using many words. These rishis were really men of few words, and when they did utter something, it had such depth pregnant in thought that it would be it would take a lot of effort. Now what kind of effort? To understand these Upanishads, Adi Shankaracharya has written commentary. He has commented on it. He has commented on various Upanishads. In order to understand Adi Shankara's commentary, there is Anandagiri Tika explaining the commentary. Now there were people like Swami Vivekananda, Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda and others who have translated that commentary and the explanation into English, and yet we would find it still abstract to grasp those subtle points. So this Vedantic study in the orthodox system always was given only to the qualified. Our Puja Gurudev, he started this beautiful technique called Jnana Yajna. Today what you are going through this process is called Jnana Yajna. A yajna, an effort to transmit this knowledge in the most user-friendly format. It was in those earlier days, he used to take 41 days lectures. You might be wondering, 41 days? Who has time? Yeah, he understood it. So he cut it short to 7 days. And now with the kind of Monday through Friday and Saturday, Sunday format that we have in US, our lecture series also have come down to 5 days. But still it was called Jnana Yajna, wherein he would take these Upanishads into the common man with their understanding, so that it could be catered to their understanding and their level. So there were these orthodox people, they said that you are giving this knowledge to the unqualified. So his belief was, if the unqualified come to share this knowledge, what will happen? Either their minds continue being distracted, or they are so much overpowered with this knowledge that stress of it, they will go to sleep. You would find it in lectures. One of the benefits of satsang is that those who are, what do you call them, sleepless people? Insomniacs, they get good sleep. With Sahana Vavatu, they go to sleep. With Purna Madaha, they wake up. I had no problem with that. It is when they start snoring. That is called deep sleep. What is deep sleep? Sleep for themselves and then sound for the rest of us. That is called sound sleep. It is challenging. This knowledge is challenging. And then the worst part is, after having slept through the lecture, they come to you and say, today's lecture was the best. That hurts the most. That hurts the most. Because you have seen them sleeping through your lecture. So he said, only the qualified ones whose mind is alert and prepared will get this knowledge. So this effort by all rishis to give this knowledge, and the efforts by great saints like Adi Shankara to re-establish this thought, so that the essence of it is understood by the next generations, they have given these commentaries. In order to establish the Advaita Vedanta, in fact any school of thought, whether it is Advaita, Vishishtadvaita or the Dvaita philosophy, the Acharyas had to comment on 3 different sections. It was called Prasthanatraya. They had to comment on 700 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, 555 sutras called Brahma Sutras, and 10 Upanishads. These 10 Upanishads are recognized as major Upanishads, though the content of all Upanishads is that subtle supreme self. But because it was being commented by all these Acharyas, these 10 are called major Upanishads and the rest of them are called minor Upanishads. There are at least 108 of them which are marked, and there are many Upanishads that have come in the recent times, but they don't find authenticity in the scriptures. So 108 for sure that they are marked as Upanishads. Of these 108, the 10 are the major Upanishads. These 10 are Isha, Kena, Katha. Add Upanishad to every word. Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Mundaka, Mandukya, Taitriya, Aitriya, Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka. Now one might think that the bigger the volume of this Upanishad, difficult it might be. But in fact, the lesser the number of mantras in these Upanishads, it gets tougher. One of the Upanishads which has the smallest numbers is this Ishavasyopanishad. It is one of the first ones that we will go through, that we will be going through these 5 days. So they had to comment on these 10 Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and the Brahma Sutras to establish Advaita Tattva or the Vishishta Advaita Tattva or the Dvaita Tattva. There are many such schools of thoughts, of which these 3 are the prominent ones. But in Advaita Vedanta, these 3 schools of thoughts are not looked as separate from each other, but they are looked at as the constant state of progressiveness. And that was very beautifully explained by Lord Hanuman to Sri Ramchandraji. So once when they were sitting together, Lord Sri Ramchandraji asked him, "Can you explain as to how you relate unto me?" So he thought for a while and then he answered amazingly. He said, "Deha drishtya tu dasoham, jiva drishtya tvad amshakah, atma drishtya tavaivaham iti me nischita matihi." He said, "When I look unto you from this body standpoint, I am your servant, you are my master." And that is called Dvaita philosophy. That I am always your servant and you are my master. Jiva drishtya, from the standpoint of the enlivening principle, the soul. Tvad amshakah, you are that whole and I am a part of it. So there are many qualities of yours that reflect in my being. You are all powerful, all knowing and all pervasive. I am limited knowing, limited pervasive and limited in my strength. So many things, many aspects of that whole which reflect in this jivatva or this individual, which is called the jivatma. From the absolute standpoint, O Lord, there is no difference between you and me. It is the same enlivening principle here as well as there, hence therefore we are the same. So the first one explains Dvaita, the second one, the Jiva principle, explains the Vishishtadvaita, and the third one explains the Advaita Tattva. So in the Advaita school of thought, the earlier 2 are not looked as something separate, but as the earlier steps to move forward to the culmination, to be one with that Supreme. So to establish this thought of Advaita, they had to comment on Prasthanatraya. And what to talk of Adi Shankaracharya? Adi Shankaracharya, he was born to Aryamba, and it was a very strange event of coincidences that both of them did not have children for almost 16-17 years. And one fine day when they woke up, both were eager to share something with each other. And strange as it might sound, both of them had the same dream, that they had Lord Shiva in their dream, and Lord Shiva had questioned both of them that I feel like granting you a boon of a son, but now the choice is somebody who has a long life but is not of character, or somebody who has a short life but who is a man of character, worthy of being, well respected. Which one would you want? And both of them had chosen a child who would have short life but then good in character. And it is also believed, like Lord Vishnu has various avatars that we talk of. Lord Shiva is always worshipped, as his avatar is worshipped in the form of Guru. So the Adi Guru, that's why we start Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. So Lord Shiva always comes in the form of in the form of Guru. His avatars are in the form of Guru. And who is the Adi Guru? Which was the avatar? Dakshinamurti. So he came down in the form of Dakshinamurti. So he was the one who came in the form of, the belief is that he was the one who came in the form of Adi Shankaracharya as well. Now Adi Shankaracharya's story is amazing. When he was, I think, 2 years or 3 years old, he lost his father. His mother raised him, and the house that he was born in, we were really glad that Chinmay Mission has it, and that is where most of our religious research studies on various scriptures is being done in Kerala. It is called Chinmay International Foundation. So that is where he was born, and after his father died, that is where people say that he had grown up. But then there is one part of story wherein when he was of 4 or 5 years old, he went up to his mother and he said, "Mom, I feel like renouncing this world. I feel like taking the path of monkhood, sannyasa." Imagine if your 5-year-old comes to you and asks this, what would you do? Maybe give them a good toy and say, "Go play." You must be kidding. He is a kid, what else? So mother didn't take him seriously. He tried it couple of times, and every single time he was not given the opportunity. So the rest of the story, the next part of this story, I do not know if Adi Shankaracharya ji made it up or that is how the nature worked, because I have gone to that river, and there are people from Kerala. Does that river have crocodiles? It doesn't have crocodiles. And even today in traditional Kerala families, they take bath in the river. So it was a tradition that he had gone into the river and took his bath, and somehow he felt like swimming, so he went into the stream. His mother was there on the shore, she was taking bath, and he started screaming. He said, "A crocodile has caught my leg. I am going to drown." So the mother got really scared. She thought she will go run, get some help. He said, "I don't think you will be back by the time I could be saved." You know, as a last wish of a dying person. Would you allow me to take sannyas? Because in sannyas there are 3 formats. One is called Vividisha sannyasa. Vividisha sannyasa is given to such person who takes the path of renunciation so that they can do research and do their sadhana, the spiritual unfoldment, to reach to the supreme. That kind of sannyasa is called Vividisha sannyasa. The second kind of sannyasa, which was given unto Swami Tapon Maharaj, is called Vidvat sannyasa. He had not taken sannyasa, but then he was a realized master. So there was this master who was living in Kailas ashram. So he comes unto him and he says, "If you take sannyasa, it will bring glory to the entire sannyas ashram. Such ones like you should be leading us in this sannyas ashram." So he had already realized, and to such one when the sannyasa is given, it is called Vidvat sannyasa. And the third one is called Atura sannyasa or Tvarita sannyasa. It comes in, I think, Linga Purana, that a person who takes sannyasa before he dies, he is assured of the next life as a seeker. So there are many people who go to Kashi, and that is where you will find lots of sannyasis, because they come there for their last moment in life. and they take sannyasa. That is called Tvarita sannyasa or Atura sannyasa. So Adi Shankara looked at his mother and says, my time has come. Can I take that Atura sannyasa? So mother, now she was in an emotional dilemma. And she said, okay, fine. As soon as she said fine, he gets up and starts walking to the shore. He said, now you have given me a word that I can take sannyasa. So whether it was the Lord's Leela or Adi Shankara's Leela, well, to look at it, if I were in that position, I would have done the same. Because when you look at somebody taking this path, you appreciate them and you appreciate their parents for having such a child. But when your own child wants to take to that path, you get freaked out. Generations you have seen that happen. I know my mother is around but not here. I can still share it. So when I had asked them, can I? So I have on either side, my father's side and mother's side, 35 on one side and 36 on the other side, first cousins. A huge family, a large family. So by the next day, all of them were at my home, trying to counsel me that what has gone wrong with you. Because usually the people who renounce, there is an assumption. Like I had this experience, I was traveling in a train in India, and this person introduces himself as a medical representative, salesperson, and he gave me his name, address, everything, his biography. And he said, what about you? So I said, I am a monk, I have taken to this path, and this is almost 10, 12 years ago, or even 15 years ago. So he looked at me, he asked me, how old are you? Maybe 21, 22. So he looked at me with those eyes popped up. Why did you take to this path? And he didn't allow me wait, he didn't give me that period to even answer. He said, did you fail in your academics that you had to run away? I said, no. Did you start a business and lose it all? Did you have a fight with your parents and run away? And finally, it was in a train, right? By this time, there were others who were traveling along. They were also interested in the discussion. They were also peeking in. And finally, looking at everybody, he comes close to me and said, law mein failure ho gaya tha kya? Did your love or something fail and you got disgusted with life that you have taken this path? So that is the assumption, that the total failure in life takes to this path. Not able to withstand life and living, you take to this path. So there could have been various objections by his mother, and being the only son, you can imagine the attachment. So she did say that, I have only you in my life. They said, whenever you are in extreme need of my presence, think of me and I'll be there. And thus this 5-year-old treks the very famous guru in those times, Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya. He was living on the shores of Narmada river. And soon he reaches his ashram. Having reached there, he prostrates, salutes this master, Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya, and he says, "Oh master, I have come all this way seeking your blessings so that you could initiate me into sannyasa, monkhood." And imagine if there is somebody, a 5-year-old, asking for it. So the master did not want to deny it, but still wanted to see if this kid in front of him was really genuine, he was interested in it, or something else has happened and he is unknowingly asking for it. Because the path of sannyasa is very rigorous. Once you renounce, it becomes very rigorous. So he looked at him and he said, have you heard of Vishnu Sahasranama? The great Lord Vishnu and his glories as enumerated, the 1,000 names of Vishnu. Have you heard of it? He said, yes. Take your time, give me your impression on this Vishnu Sahasranama, as to what do those names mean, and what do you understand of it? Can you give it? And it is said that overnight a 5-year-old sits down to write the meaning for all 1,000 names. And even today when you read that work of Adi Shankaracharya on Vishnu Sahasranama, you will be amazed. There is a reference of at least 12 or 13 Upanishads. There is a reference of various Tarka, Mimamsa, Nyaya Shastra. There is a reference of 11 Puranas. There is a reference of, he has the entire scriptures referred to in deriving each word and its meaning. Of course, the authenticity of Sanskrit was obvious. So by early morning, he takes bath in Narmada river, comes back and goes to his guru, prostrates and gives this entire work and presents it. And it is said, I have heard it from other masters, that it took 4 days for Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya to read through the entire commentary, which he had done in one single night. And looking at his work, he thought that it should be a Karana Purusha, and immediately gave him sannyasa. And the work which was done by Vedavyasa, the entire Vedic literature, which was again in a dilapidated condition, the written format, for the next, I think, 8 years, he spends time in retrieving the entire scriptural knowledge and rewriting it. Of course, with the help of various other students with him, he retrieves everything and writes it down. And from the age of 15, he starts traveling across the length and breadth of India. And there were no airlines, there were no bus facilities, there were no trains, it was walking through. He walked through the entire length and breadth of India. He saw that where there were various influences, and that was the time that Buddhism had spread far and wide. There was equal spread of Jainism, and there were various scholars who had taken to those paths, and the Vedic literature was being misinterpreted. So like today what we have in the doctorates, wherein you present a thesis and then what do you call it, dissertation, wherein you have to stand up and defend yourself. So this was the kind of process. Similar to that was the process of samvada, discussions, wherein those who are proposing their side of theory, of philosophy, they had to defend their thought, and the challenger could challenge all aspects, and the one who is being challenged could counter question them on their philosophical aspects. So he goes through the entire length and breadth of India, clarifying the finer details of this Vedanta Shastra, and while traveling, he has worked on, see if his major work that of his life can be compiled. It's amazing, mind-boggling. There is not a form of God or goddess that he has not written a stotra on. A panchakam, ashtakam, shatkam, something or the other, he has a beautiful stotra written. These are the bhakti texts. Then he has written the prakarana granthas, the introductory texts to Vedanta, like Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, Viveka Chudamani, Upadesha Sahasri. I can go on. And there are scores of that he has written. And then the third part of his work can be called as commentaries on Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, Vishnu Sahasranama, Sanat Sujatiya, Devi Trishati. So these various works that he has commented on. And the best of it all, as if these first three were not best, the best of it all was the works that came out of him spontaneously, like Bhajagovindam, Manisha Panchakam, Kanakadhara Stotram. These are all his spontaneous works. I have purchased recently 4 or 5 years ago, I am going through it, the entire works of Adi Shankaracharya, which runs into 21 volumes. And this is not with interpretation or meanings given, just the work given, compiled. And you still amaze that one single individual in a short span of life, 32 years, has accomplished this many while traveling across India, length and breadth of it, while he re-established Sanatana Dharma and the Vedantic doctrine into the common man of that particular period. He also established 4 mathas or ashrams in 4 corners of India. The south one was called Sringeri Matha. The east one is called the Puri Matha. Puri Matha is not Puri Sabji. Jagannatha Puri Matha. And the west it is still called the Dwaraka Matha. And the north it is called the Jyotir Matha or Joshi Matha. Apabhramsha of Jyotir Matha is Joshi Matha. Established these 4 corners ashram, and he had trained students so that they could take care of these ashrams and spread this knowledge far and wide. Now, going through his works, if you have been introduced to Sanskrit, you would be amazed to look at that his commentary is so delicately balanced that not a word from his commentary can be taken off thinking that it is extra. Not a word extra can be added into it to get a better meaning. That's how beautiful is his work. So his commentary on this beautiful Upanishad called Ishavasyopanishad, which has 18 mantras and a Shanti mantra. This Ishavasyopanishad is from Shukla Yajurveda. See, there are 4 Vedas. Yajurveda has 2 parts, Krishna Yajurveda and Shukla Yajurveda. So the Shukla Yajurveda, this Ishavasyopanishad comes in the Kanva Shakha Samhita. As I said, each Upanishad, each Veda has various themes, and each theme is called a Samhita. So that Samhita is called Kanva Samhita, and this comes as the 40th chapter in that Kanva Shakha. And the first 39 chapters talk about the Karma Kanda. The 40th chapter there talks about the culmination of all actions in life, if sincerely done, if done with the attitude of dedication, should lead us to this experience as stated in this Ishavasyopanishad. Why is it called Ishavasyopanishad? A very simple reason. Because the first mantra of this Upanishad starts with the word Ishavasyam. Hence, therefore, what is that Upanishad called from the Kanva Shakha? Isha Upanishad or Ishavasyopanishad, because the first word is Ishavasya. So it comes in the Kanva Shakha Samhita of the Shukla Yajurveda and it is called Ishavasyopanishad. In the Yajurveda, the Shanti mantra that is taken from the Yajurveda is the mantra that we all know in Chinmaya Mission is Purnamadaha. So this Shanti mantra highlights the essence of the Upanishad. So we will chant that mantra, and before I start, there is a little difference. Bhagavad Gita, the verses are called shloka, whereas I have been referring to the Upanishads as mantra. The difference being that the work of the literature of Vedas are always called mantra, and the literature of Smriti, Itihasa are called shloka. So we cannot call this as shloka, and we cannot call the shlokas as mantra. So the first introductory Shanti mantra, that is what we will see today. Repeat after me, or we can chant it together. We all know this mantra. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I know, don't go off with Hari Hi Om, because it's not the end of our satsang. It is a Shanti mantra of this Upanishad. This mantra comes in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, in the 5th chapter, this particular mantra comes in. It's a very beautiful mantra. I'll give you the word meaning first, and then we will go into the depth of the meaning. Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Purnamadaha, that supreme, is infinite and complete in nature. Purnamadaha. Purnamidam, this creation which is born or created of that supreme, is also infinite, is also complete in nature. Because from infinite you can always take out, and that which you take out has to be infinite. Amazing, the mathematics also included in here. See, if you subtract anything from infinite, that which you have taken out from that infinity, if it is a finite structure, then it presupposes that that which you thought as infinite was never infinite. From infinity, what you can take out is always infinite, because there cannot be finitude in infinite. Purnat Purnam Udachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya. From that infinite complete, when you take out something, it is by law that it has to be infinite alone. Now this is a very serious statement made, which explains various aspects of our philosophy in a very simple statement made. On the lighter side, one of our Swamijis, he has this funny bone, and he is a pun master. He puns with various languages, he puns around. So he says, Purnamadaha, before the satsang started, ignorance was Purna. After the satsang, we still remain in that ignorance, because from the infinite nature of ignorance, what can remain is ignorance alone. That is his answer to people when they question. When we listen to such satsangs, we feel pretty inspired that we have to do this sadhana. Why is it that we feel like we come back to the square one? So then he gives this mantra and he says, here Purna means ignorance. Now, on a serious note again, Purnavadaha. So, how is that Paramatma or Supreme defined? Satchidananda Ghana Swarupaha. That infinite, supreme is of the nature of consciousness, existence and bliss. It is infinite, it is complete by itself, and it is Sat, Chit and Ananda Ghana Swarupaha. We will not be going into the intricate details of trying to explain or prove what is Sat, Chit, Ananda today, because in the later part of the mantra we will come to that as we start Ishavasyopanishad, the main mantras. But let us take it for granted as of now, if that Paramatma, if that Supreme be infinite and is of the nature of consciousness, existence and bliss, the entire creation, how is it viewed? It is not viewed as something created other than, separate from that Supreme. See, in order to create, you need two components. One is called the material cause, the other one is called the efficient cause. Like if you have to make cookies, you need a material. What is the material? You need the dough and all the goodness that goes in it. Lots of butter, lots of sugar, lots of nuts, and you make the dough. That is the material. And the one who knows how to use that material to transform that material into dough and then into nice, crispy, melting cookies. And that individual is called the efficient cause. Even in the assembly line automated processes, there should be an efficient cause who can manage and control even the automated process. You may say there is nobody involved there, it just have to turn the switch on. You have to at least program that it auto switches itself on, but still there is an efficient cause involved, so that the process is generating batch of cookies. So there is the material, then there is the efficient cause. Some people also use another cause, which I club it into the material cause. Some people further bifurcate it and say there is an instrumental cause. So there is a material and the material gets transformed with the use of certain instruments. So there is an instrumental cause, efficient cause and the material cause. So if we take the creation of this universe as something other than the Lord, other than that Supreme, so our basic presupposition itself has a flaw in it. Something other than the divine, what could it be? Not divine. But how is this creation explained? So that our Upanishads say, Sa ekaha bahusyam praja yeyeti satapo tapyata satapastapva idagam sarvam asrajata. That one principle called the Supreme Being expanded himself into this universe And as he started expanding, he started extending into the individual forms. So if we take that basic hypothesis as the Lord being divine, whose nature is Satchit Ananda, he is not creating something as a material taken from outside, but he is creating the entire universe as his own being extending. As the mother extends through herself to give birth to a child. And that example I think you can relate to. But still that example also has a flaw in it, because once born there is a separation created. But here there is absolutely no separation. That Supreme expands itself and expresses as this universe. Meaning, everything in this universe is nothing but divine. So immediately we have a logical flaw here. If everything is divine, why do we see such pain, misery and sorrow around? That is where the rishis have found the reason. They said the world, the entire universe is divine. In fact, the entire Vishnu Sahasranama, what is the first name that it states? It starts with Vishwam, meaning the entire creation is nothing but Narayana. But if it is Narayana, if it is that Supreme, why don't I see the entire universe that divine? Why do I see such sorrow, misery and pain all around me? So the rishis said that we view the universe not as ease, but we perceive the universe with the layer of our mind, with the interface of our operating system called mind. And this mind is filled with layers and layers of likes and dislikes. That which I like is called good. That which I dislike, I brand it as bad. It all boils down to our own patterns of likes and dislikes. Now, how do these likes and dislikes function? That which I like today or dislike today need not remain consistent tomorrow. That which I like today, I may not like it tomorrow. Or that which I have disliked yesterday, I may like it today. So within myself, my likes and dislikes change. And the definition of goodness and badness also changes. Now when I try to expand it beyond my own experience, that which I call good for myself need not be good for you. Like I was in this house, I had gone there for these lectures and I was living with them, and this Amma brings in a cup of coffee. See, coffee for her gives lot of acid reflux, heartburns. And so she brings that early morning, okay, first thing in the morning, she brings that cup of coffee. Says, here is your early morning dose of poison. Yeah, it is poison for you, but not for me. My order was that, it's 3 shots of espresso, uncorrupted with sugar and milk. So it is like concentrated poison, take. That is poison for you from your standpoint, because it does not go well with your system. but it need not be generalized to the entire world around. So depending on my own likes and dislikes, which keep changing, and that likes and dislikes are not consistent across, because each one have their own sets of likes and dislikes, with the shades of likes and dislikes when we perceive the world around. We are so far away from divinity or perception of divinity because we are just perceiving that which we like or that which we don't like. So the entire world is constantly being branded as either being good or being bad. And what is this goodness and badness?
Perception.
The standard of goodness and badness is my likes and dislikes transforming the world around me into good and bad. So from this standpoint, there is never a situation wherein things are absolutely good or absolutely bad. It is just a perception. That is the reason that on the path of spirituality in our Sanatana Dharma, the focus is, yeah, definitely there is an initial step wherein you transform yourself from this bad personality to a good personality, but that is not the purpose, that is not the end of spirituality. That is just the first step of spirituality, to transform the personality from bad to good. But to transcend the polarities of both good and bad. I will make a statement today which I will probably clarify in 2-3 days down the lane. As much as bad is bad, good is equally bad. As much as bad is considered as bad, good is equally bad. We will come through that in the second or third mantra. Because essentially what exists is nothing but that supreme in various formats, and that supreme in various formats has to be nothing but divine. So what is the implication of this statement? The implication of this statement is pretty deep. Even if you understand it intellectually, not experience what it means, but just understand it intellectually, its impact is pretty deep. That if that supreme is expanding itself into this beautiful expression of universe, and everything is essentially divine, if this be taken as our baseline, there is nothing in this world worthy of hatred. There is nothing in this world worthy of hatred. See, when I look at from my body perspective, body standpoint, when I am standing, I say a person is standing. Or when I am sitting, a person is sitting. Now what am I doing? Stretching my both hands. What is this? Right hand. What is this? I am not going through an anatomy class, but
Yeah, your hands.
whether it be called a right hand or left hand, it is from your perception. Though I perceive it as my right and left hand, the underlying thought is it is my extension. See, in Indian tradition, if you give something to somebody, one person that I know here who would correct you immediately is Sandhya ji. try giving anything to her with left hand, or taking something from her from left hand. She would immediately correct you, say, no, the other hand, right hand. Because that comes as our cultural part, wherein we give and take with our right hand only. As a mark of respect, as a mark of reverence, we use our right hand. See, from this standpoint, whether it is right hand or left hand, it is my hand. And when you look at it from that standpoint, whether it be right hand or left hand, the left hand doesn't become lesser in stature, or right hand doesn't become greater in stature, because it is my own expansion. And that which is my own expansion, I cannot have a special liking to one and hate something else. Because there is nothing in this world that is worthy of our hatred. And as a cultural shock, I had it when I had come to this country. The kids here are pretty outspoken, and they have bigger vocabulary than I had assumed. So I was distributing prasad, some fruits, and there was a green apple, so I gave this kid a green apple. I remember this example so clearly in my head. So the kid goes, ew, I hate green apples. I looked at that kid and I said, what has that green apple done to you to hate it? You may not want it. You can refuse to say, I don't want green apple. Hatred is a very deep, strong emotion. There is nothing in this world worthy of hatred. Why? It is the expansion of that supreme in various formats. Now it is that supreme which is expanding in various forms, various formats. Do you think a country's border? Do you think the color of the skin? Do you think the size of the person? Do you think the format in which each individual is expressing would really matter to differentiate one person to the other? Each other person is as divine as you. That divinity who is on the altar, each person that you are interacting with is that divine. You may not like that form of divinity, that's a different issue. But at least as a first step, not worthy of hatred, because it is that divine. On one hand, you say that you love divinity, you love that God, and one format of that expression you say you hate it. In love, you cannot differentiate saying that, one aspect of it I love you and other aspect of you I don't love you. Then it is not love, it is a bargain. It's a business deal. Even if we understand, even if we take that as a hypothesis and start off our logic, saying that divine has expanded and expressed. So where is that pain, where is that sorrow, where is that misery? That pain, misery, sorrow is not out there in the world, but it is created by our minds. Whether individually or collectively, it is this mind, the layer of likes and dislikes, which creates pain, misery, sorrow. So whether it be the Yoga Sutras, whether it be the Bhakti Shastras or the Karma Shastra, what does it say? Transcend these polarities of mind, transcend the mind. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. What is yoga? To transcend the polarities of mind, so that you will experience divine and nothing but divine alone. Where are we stuck? We are stuck with layers of these likes and dislikes. See, it is okay if we individually are stuck with our likes and dislikes. That's still acceptable. What to do? I have these likes and dislikes. It takes time to transcend. Fine, still understandable. There is this ego who wants to make sure that not just me but everybody around me that I interact with respect my likes and dislikes and accept and adapt their life according to my likes and dislikes. And that is what causes pain, misery, sorrow. And we check with the world around that there is somebody who seems to be happy. So we compare with our status. Who is comparing? The mind associated with the ego is comparing with the world. As soon as you compare, competition starts. And what does this competition lead to? Either put an effort to outsmart them, or when we know that we cannot outsmart them, the crab mentality, pull them down lower than what we are at. So competition, confusion, jealousy, all the various modifications of emotions start. And we try to smear this across on that divine. And we call that so-called successful life. Yes, if your aim was to be miserable, pathetic in life, you are successful. In creating that polarity, in creating that distinction of good, bad based on our likes and dislikes and smearing on the world and then claiming that world. So I have given you two different explanations as to why we end up being miserable. The third explanation. Once I see something that I like, what do? I want to possess it. That which I dislike, I want to get rid of it. Constantly, there is this effort to procure something and to throw away something. That which I have procured has to be secured. So secured that nobody else can stake their claim on it. And in some cases, not even our own immediate family, wife, husband, children, no, not even them. That is why in this country we have billionaire dogs, billionaire cats. They didn't want their family to have it, they had it for their cat. They have trusts which maintain that cat. The first time I read that piece of news, I said, wow. कुत्ता हुआ तो क्या हुआ, यूएस में होना चाहिए. I wouldn't call it unconditional. So that which I have procured has to be secured. Hence this pattern is created. What is the pattern? The entire world is divided into two parts. That which is mine and that which is not yet mine. Think about it. Why else would we put an effort out in this world? Because that which is yours has to be mine, one day or the other, one form or the other. The right means will not get it to me. So what do I end up doing? BBS. Beg, borrow, steal. One form or the other, I need that aggrandizing, grabbing everything so that I can put a mark on it. This is mine. And constantly eyeing on that which is not yet mine. And do you think the world around is stupid? Would it want to part with its own things, with its own pattern of such existence? There is struggle. In the earlier days, it was invading into other lands so that you could claim it as yours. In today's world, invading into the other economy and markets. Same invasion. With this layers of mind, that which is divine, expressing as divine, divinity is not perceived, only divisions are perceived. And whenever we perceive these states of divisions and polarities, we are born for miserable experiences. Because we are looking through those polarized visions or divisions. Essentially, it being divine expresses nothing less than divine. That divine whose nature is Satchit Ananda, existence, knowledge and bliss. The first two aspects of the nature are our experience. Hence, therefore, in every effort of ours, we are not searching for the first two aspects. I will put it in 4 different questions. I have asked it in every satsang. The first question, it's a participative question, okay? Do you exist?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you need proof of your existence? Think about it. It seems like a well-trained crowd which knows the answers. Like, do you need a mirror right in the morning when you wake up to say, oh, I exist? Or do you need a tag? Do you need an ID? I breathe. I can see, I can smell, I can hear. So all senses. So it doesn't require, what if you are not seeing? Stop your breath for a second. Do you still exist? Independent of this knowledge, do you exist? Right? Do you need a proof of it? Why do you not need a proof of it? Because I know that I exist. So the two aspects of that supreme, which is knowledge and existence, is an experience. I exist and I know that I exist. What is not of our experience is the blissful state or the happy state. And since we are not able to experience that happy state, we are constantly in search, seeking that happiness. Is there anybody who minds being happy? Any effort that we put out in this world, is it not to be happy? Okay, let me ask the question the other way around, which makes it easier to understand. Have you ever put an effort consciously to be miserable? I am not talking of the result, I am talking of the intent. You may end up being miserable, that's a totally different case study. Have you ever consciously started, at least I have not come across anybody who would say, Swamiji, please pray for me. I am taking this huge effort now so that I could be miserable in 20 days. Nobody has asked me to pray for them to be miserable. In fact,
unconscious mind.
Unconscious mind?
Could do that.
Aim for, even the most dumb person never aims for being miserable. Even a small child aims for being happy alone. And whenever there is even though they cannot speak, even though their sensory perceptions are not that great, the hands, legs and others, they cannot move. But the moment there is some misery, they start their wireless call. And now it is the mother who has to go figure. This cry at this time, at this hour, what should it mean? Is it hunger? Is it a bad diaper? Is it something pricking? Is it something, what could it be? I tell you, fathers can't figure it. A father, the moment they see this child, take it. I don't know why they are crying. Even that child, the effort is seen to avoid and get beyond misery so that they can reach a happy state. All our efforts can be categorized aiming for happiness, because that is the only thing which is the nature of Supreme, which is not experienced by us at this moment. Though experienced, it is temporary in nature. It's very transitory in nature. And we are aiming for that happiness which can be experienced for sustained period of time. And since we cannot experience that sustained period of time, we try to repeat various things which give us small packets of joy. At the end of it, at the bottom line, I check that I have continuous experience of small packets of joy, but still not satisfied. And as long as we are not satisfied, the desires keep churning out. And these desires keep coming out in the format of likes and dislikes, and we don't perceive the divinity. This vicious cycle continues. And for that very reason, spirituality focuses, and the bottom line is very clear: dukkha nivritti, sukha prapti. All this analysis is so that we can train ourselves to transcend the polarities which causes dukkha or sorrow, reach to that state wherein it is a constant platform of bliss. Just before winding up today, then one might say, if I am already happy, why should I work? It seems to be at this point a very intellectually challenging question. But its presupposition is wrong. In fact, a person who is happy cannot be contained in one corner. Even in these little moments of joy that we have, the moment we have this excessive joy, what do? We go out there and share. So the person who has experienced that bliss still works in this world. But what is the attitude? That he works in this world not for happiness, but with happiness, to distribute that happiness, to contribute that happiness to the entire society, nation, or the humanity. This is the impact of this particular Shanti mantra. So in order to reach to that state, one has to understand where we are stuck. So the Upanishad goes through a detailed explanation in 18 steps, 18 mantras, and that is what we will try to see in next 4 days. Where does peace fit in here? Good question. Peace is gained when the mind has transcended polarity, and such a peaceful mind alone can find happiness. An agitated mind cannot find happiness. To put it in a very simple statement, I'll make a statement. Tell me what is wrong in it. I am frustrated, but I am happy. I am agitated, but I am happy. See, if the mind is restless, you cannot be happy. The mind has to be at peace to experience that real state of bliss. That is where peace fits in. So did you join all the pieces together? Okay, we will wind up today to start tomorrow at 7:30. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम।